put yourself in high pressure situations. I always like to make practice harder than the game. So, and that was a big thing that Coach Lanning did at Oregon, was make it way, 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 way harder than the game. So when I was out there for the Senior Bowl, it felt normal.
Welcome to the Talent Alone Won't Win podcast. I am your host, Suzi Freeman. I am a mental performance coach, specifically working with kickers, punters, and long snappers. And I welcome you to the channel. Hey, everybody. Today, super exciting. We have Luke Basso from Oregon, a long snapper who has one of the guys that we have on that we get to actually talk about Pro Day and Combine and Senior Bowl and all the fun. So thank you so much for taking time out on your Saturday. And I just really want to welcome you and then have you just tell us a little about your journey into college football.
Of course. Well, thank you first for having me. It means a lot. But my journey kind of started way, 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 way long ago. My dad, he played college football at a small school, so he's the whole reason why I got into football. My grandpa played a little bit of football. I had some uncles that got into it, but it's been my passion my entire life. I grew up in Lake Oswego, Oregon. That's where I've been my entire life, and football was the main sport. Football family, kind of live and breathe football. And I stuck with it, obviously throughout my entire career, played a bunch of different positions. And uh, when I was in fifth grade, my youth coach wanted me to become a center. I wasn't fast enough at the time to be a receiver or anything like that. So he's like, we'll just let this kid snap the ball. And I never knew what a long snapper was. For the longest time, I thought a long snapper was just the center, at the college level, at the NFL level, whatever it was. But my sophomore year of high school, the whole reason why I got into long snapping is because our special teams coordinator knew that I could snap the ball with my right hand. So he just automatically assumed, hey, this kid will probably want to snap for varsity next year. We're going to need a guy. So got me to a camp. I went to a camp my sophomore year, fell in love with it, knew that that was exactly what I wanted to do. And I just stuck with it. I didn't think maybe I could be a linebacker at the D1 level. Who knew? I wasn't sure yet, but I fell in love with the position. And December of my senior year, I got an offer from Oregon, and that's exactly where I wanted to go for academics. So it was my dream school. So I committed basically on the spot and stuck with it that whole way. So that transition from high school to college, it was quick, but that's kind of how I got into snapping. That's how I got to Oregon. It was a great opportunity. Obviously, used the camps and platforms like Twitter at the time to help the recruiting process, but it was a good transition. Got to it.
That's fun. I love that. It's super rare that you get somebody that, for one, loves a position and purposefully said, "This is what I'm going to do." Usually, you guys are thrown into it. But I believe that it's kind of that fun position where you guys get to really have the ability to be the bigger guy, show off a lot more athleticism by, running, tackling, and kind of getting to be part of football as well as not just say kicking and punting.
Right.
So kind of fills that bucket, right?
Yeah, exactly. You get a little bit of everything. You're still
Yeah.
that athlete. You get to go out there and make some hits. It's fun.
Yeah, agreed. How was it being like a walk-on and just, knowing what that journey is? What was your mindset thinking like, what do I need to give and what do I need to do to make certain I can become the starter? And did you have a time frame and did you meet the goal?
Right, right. So obviously, being a walk on or scholarship, nothing is given to you. You got to earn everything. But especially being a walk on from the state of Oregon and going to a program like Oregon, you have to work that extra hard, like that, put in the extra details, the extra work and stuff like that. Like, that nothing's going to be given to you. You just have to put your head down, especially being a specialist. You just got to do your job. So I knew going into it that it was going to be hard. I knew it was going to be a battle, but I knew that I belonged to, and I had that mentality that I belonged. And my first season, I came in, I was the backup. I had a fantastic starter before me, Karsten Battles. He had been there for 4 years prior. He'd played in 50 or 60 something games in his career, something crazy. So he knew everything, the ins and outs of the program, what to do. So I really followed his lead. That first year, like, I knew I wasn't probably going to be playing. So I just kind of followed everything that he did. I took from his insight and I just trained and I put in the extra work. And it's a very humbling position to be in, but you know that it's going to pay off later on. So that first year, it was all about learning. It was all about developing and seeing myself in the future, competing. Competed every day. I pushed Karsten and he pushed me. And then my second year, it was Karsten's last year. So I knew the
Okay.
following season I was going to be, hopefully, was going to be the guy. It was a position that was up for grabs. My special teams coordinator, he's very tough. He's a fantastic coach. He pushes us. So nothing's ever really given to you. You have to earn it. And that season, I started to get playing time. So I would rotate on PATs, on some field goals, on some punts, just kind of developing me, getting me used to the game, knowing that I was going to be the guy for the next season. That was huge for my mentality. Really started to believe in myself. Kind of started to see the bigger picture. You're not the young freshman walk on anymore. You're a sophomore now. Like it's getting more real. You're going to get playing time. So every day is just showing up and going to work. Can't complain about anything. You do with what you get. But it was a good process. It helped me out and it propelled my career and helped my mentality a ton.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's amazing. Your coaching staff doing that's really good, right? Give you some, whether it's just a PAT or something, but just kind of throwing you out there instead of like, hey, started junior year,
Yeah.
boom, your turn. So I think that's fantastic. And I also love the piece where it really dives into you got sat behind the guy,
Mhm.
kind of grateful in that position, and you took the opportunity to learn. Although, yeah, you feel like a little competition, right? But like I know my place. I'm here to be in this, this path for a moment of learning. And fortunately, you get to be behind a really great
Right.
guy
Exactly.
there. So absorbing that instead of taking it as kind of competition and, I'm going to come in and take over, I
Right.
think is super smart. Not a lot of guys
Yeah.
think that way. They come in wanting to win it and then they feel bad that they didn't. So,
You gotta embrace that position. You gotta embrace being in there. You can't walk into things. I mean, everyone's different. But I chose to
mhm,
walk into it with an open mind, knowing that it wasn't going to be handed to me, and it's something that I was going to have to earn myself. And
mhm,
I truthfully loved going into college and taking a year to wait. Like a lot of guys feel like they have to go in and have to start, or they're going to let themselves down or let people down. They put that pressure on themselves.
yeah.
I was so happy that I got a year to develop and learn.
Mhm.
The maturity that you gain throughout college, it's huge, and it's something that I needed, and I'm glad that I did it.
Yeah, I say that to all my guys when they ask. I'm like, man, if you could go somewhere that's a little bit better school
Mhm.
with someone good above you to develop and take a red shirt, do it versus going to a little lesser school and starting right away.
Absolutely.
And I get there's points to both sides, right? Starting right away is one baptism by fire. But I love the opportunity, like you said, getting used to college, used to the curriculum, used to routines and things like that are so beneficial that I think the later years you struggle less.
Totally. Agreed.
How are you on like your routines and habits? Did you develop them early and have you iterated very often?
Yeah, I've always been a routine guy, sticking to my sleep schedule and what I eat. What I eat, that was a big thing for me in my later years when football became more and more serious and I knew I wanted to reshape my body. And that change in what I was eating kind of propelled my routine into my stretching and what I did for football. Like it's so important to find something consistent. Like consistency is the most rare quality that I think you can find in people, and that's what makes people so great at what they do is consistency, especially being a snapper, a specialist in general. Um, but I kind of had the same morning routine. Every practice, I would stretch the same. I had the same thing that I was doing every single time. I had things I would tell myself mentally, whether that
Okay.
was a verse or just something about confidence or just something that I needed to say to myself before I snapped. Timing is huge. Early is on time, showing up to certain things at certain times um, gives you that confidence. It's like when you wake up in the morning and you make your bed first thing, you're already set for a good day. That's how I feel
Yeah.
about it in snapping. Like if I um, complete this stretch, if I go in and do this recovery at this time, and I stick to my routine, it's all gonna flow nicely, and I'll be set snapping later, and I'll have nothing to worry about. So big routine guy, sticking to that, adapting. Obviously, you have to do that in college too. but it's been important for me.
I agree with you. When I get young kids that come into my program, it's the first thing is, are you making your bed? What are you doing? You know, that those setting those mini AM PM routines. Did you have those in-depth sort of routines even as a high school kid, or did you learn that that was important once you got to college and realized, hey, this is serious?
Right. In high school, I had
Okay.
some routine, but it wasn't anything like it was in college. I mean, when you get there the very first day, it's a wake up call. It's a business. It's you kind of feel like a
Mhm.
grown man. You're getting thrown into a little bit, and the pressure's amped up. So I found my routine. I would say the end of my freshman year because everything moves so fast. You're just figuring things out, and I was taking that whole entire year to learn from the guys around me. So I really found a good routine for myself right at the end of that. In high school, maybe I had something going for myself, but it wasn't anything like I had going in college. That was more just going out there, snapping the football, playing other positions, worrying about a million other things. College is very focused, it's very niche, and it's important to prepare in that way to be successful.
Right. So obviously, routines are great
Mhm,
and perfect, and you have to have them. My big question that I think can be extremely valuable to the next bit of guys wanting draft stuff.
mhm,
When you really realize, man, I'm good enough to declare for the draft,
mhm,
right? I mean, everybody goes into it thinking that's my dream.
right.
Most, but that's the dream. But some realize they don't want it. When you realize that, did you change anything up and or did you kind of do it after?
Mhm,
Because, one of those pieces is now leaving college, you're not really that identity piece, you're not a college player anymore.
right.
You're a pro guy, right? Whether it's going to be a pro playing right away or a free agent, etc. You're now a pro guy.
Mhm,
Did you have to do any mental shifts and change routines to be that guy?
right. Just like the transition from high school to college, there's a huge transition from college to the NFL. Coach Lanning is huge on mindset and keeping consistent with your mindset. So at Oregon, he would always tell us, "You're preparing your entire career for the NFL now. Don't be the guy that when January rolls around, you start changing everything and changing how you work for that 3 months before you get drafted. Spend the 3 years, the 4 years, the 5 years that you're at Oregon preparing for that day." So I feel like truly for the last 3, 4 years, I've been preparing myself so that I haven't had to change much. Um, and that just comes with belief. I never imagined being in this position truly. Like I feel very blessed and very thankful. And um, over time, it got more and more serious. But I always had that sort of routine that I stuck to make the transition a lot easier. Now, there are physical parts of it that do have to change. I'm not waking up right now at 5:30 in the morning with the strength coach checking me into the facility, making sure that I eat my breakfast. I gotta cook
Mhm.
breakfast on my own. I gotta cook lunch. I gotta cook dinner. I gotta do things around the house that, I wasn't always doing while I was having football practice. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of physical things that are different, but the mentality that you carry yourself with in college, try everything you can to keep that mentality going into the NFL. You don't want to just rebrand yourself. You don't want to make it something completely new. Be consistent. Stick to what you've done and what works. Find that mentality that you can carry with you the entire way.
Yeah. Sorry, I think that ding was me. Um, no, I think that that's fantastic because I do have guys where we have to kind of work that piece of like now prepare in this space, but that's a great way to see it too, right? Going in having that mentality, even if you lock it in, say junior year, and this is the message to
Mhm.
those guys, junior senior year, if you're like, okay, really locking it in, having like that morning sort of mantra or something where it's like, I am an NFL player, getting yourself in that mindset. So and I love
Right.
Landing. I talk to Ask this often, so I've learned a lot about how Landing does things, and he's just
Yeah.
pretty golden in that space. You guys are so lucky
Yeah.
to have him, and some of the staff. What is it like? So you got, as we talked earlier, you got to the Senior Bowl invite, you got to go to the
Mhm.
combine, you've already done your pro day. Can you give some tips? Let's just start with Senior Bowl first. What kind of advice can you give the next guys that want or will get a senior invite or a bowl invite? What should they prepare for? And what is it like?
Right. I would say leading up to it, this is my personal experience. This is something that I did that I thought worked really well for me. Knowing that the Senior Bowl and hopefully the combine and pro day and all this stuff was happening was finding your place of comfort before. A lot of people, a lot of different positions love to move around, go far places, kind of at their expense, and they tire themselves out. I found home here in Oregon, in Autzen. I've been training here, and I found my people in advance that helped me prepare for things like the Senior Bowl. Um, you don't have to go far places and do a bunch of crazy things right off the gate. You need to rest. You need to recover. You need to get mentally prepared for what you're about to do. I was at the Senior Bowl for 10 days, and for the next, yeah, I was there for a long time. So for the next generation of guys that are going to go, find that place of peace beforehand, preparing yourself for when you do go. Um, it's a long time, so you got to be prepared to snap a lot. Put yourself in high pressure situations. I always like to make practice harder than the game. So, and that was a big thing that Coach Lanning did at Oregon was make it way, 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 way harder than the game. So when I was out there for the Senior Bowl, it felt normal. It wasn't something that I wasn't used to before. Meetings are huge. The
Okay.
snapping part takes care of itself, but meetings and interviews, how you carry yourself, people are watching at all times. They watch how you interact with people, they watch how you treat people. And like we talked about earlier, routine is huge. Like the scouts are going to ask you about your routine. They want to make sure that you are not just winging it. They want to know that you have something in place and they want you to be specific. But most importantly, be yourself. Don't don't lie, be honest, be yourself, be truthful. They want to see who you are. They're looking at the player, and I felt good going into that. I had people in my corner that were preparing me, just giving me good advice, like just be yourself, man. Carry yourself the same way that you always have. Carry a notebook with you. Be attentive. Like this is an interview. Really, it's not just
Right.
practice. You're not doing it for fun. This is your future. This is what you love to do. And it's a business. It's a process. So just prepare yourself in all those ways. It's really really important. Um, After the Senior Bowl, I came back to Oregon and I stayed here. I trained. I worked with strength coaches that allowed me to focus truly on snapping, so I wasn't tiring myself out. You want to stay fresh at all times. You never know when an opportunity is going to come calling. Um,
Yeah.
but those are little bits and pieces of advice that I would say. Um, People work things up to be a lot more than they are. I was pretty nervous going into the Senior Bowl, not in a bad way, but good nerves.
Okay.
I was excited, kind of ready to get going, and when I got
Yeah.
out there, it wasn't something that I needed to be nervous for. It's at the end of the day, it's the same thing that you've done a million times.
Mhm.
Yes, there's some different people around watching you and looking at you, but it's like riding a bike. It's muscle memory. You just lean on that and you can't stress yourself out. These people want to see you succeed. You just have to remember that throughout the whole entire process.
That's such a good piece of advice. And people, they want to see you succeed, right? I think that advice can translate in, and maybe you can speak on this, not as in depth as like a kicker or punter, because you're kind of the starting piece to that
Mhm.
operation. If you go well, then the holder goes well, then the kicker probably goes well.
Right.
So there's not, or maybe correct me, what is the big pressure for you? Because you don't really have to rely on somebody else's job to go well to make it good.
Mhm.
Am
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
I would say the big pressure it truly is that piece of like, I want my kicker to succeed and I want my holder to succeed and I want my punter to succeed. So
Yeah.
it's not pressure that I would put on myself necessarily. It's just the want to give the holder the best snap possible. I want to give the kicker perfect laces. I want to give the punter the easiest catchable ball. And I want them to succeed. So sometimes a lot of snappers put pressure on themselves in that way. You know, but it's a position where people really don't know your name unless you mess up. Um, so sometimes people go out there and think, "Oh no, 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 no! Like if I mess up here, like everyone's gonna know who I am." Like, no, you got to have that mentality every single time that you go out there that you're snapping to succeed, not snapping not to fail. Um, so just having that confidence and that cohesiveness with your unit, it takes care of itself over time. But I would say if there is that pressure, it's just wanting to give the other guys the best, ball possible so that they can do their jobs.
Yeah. And, I'm assuming when you go in like Senior Bowl, the combine, things like that, you're not necessarily paired up with people you know.
Hmm.
So, what do you do as the snapper when like a kicker is to get you at the combine? Well, you probably had Atticus, didn't
Hmm. Um,
you?
I'm glad you brought that up though, because I had three different groups at the combine. I had three different kickers, two different
Okay.
holders. I didn't have my punter there. I snapped, felt like a million footballs to a million different punters. And I knew going into that was going to be probably one of the harder parts of this process is there are so many uncontrollables. At the Senior Bowl, you don't get to control who your unit is. You don't get to control who you're snapping to really at the combine either. Um, but I was thankful in college that I had many different holders, I had many different punters, so I was used to having that change. Um, at the end of the day, you're snapping a football the same distance, so you have to get out of that mental block of being really comfortable with a certain person. It does help. It's great. I love snapping to my punter. I love snapping to my holder, but you don't get to control any of it. It's completely out of your realm. So going into the combine, I was just thinking to myself, okay, a field goal's 8 yards, a punt's 15 yards. They're all catching it the same, pretty much, relatively. So just go out there, not worry about it, um, and do your best to give them the best ball possible. You got to take that pressure off of yourself. I knew it was going to be uncomfortable, but you got to embrace it. If you're not embracing the uncomfortable, you'll never get comfortable.
Yeah, they say when you're comfortable anyway, you're not growing. So you
Exactly.
always have to strive for that next piece.
Right.
What would you say is the biggest difference between, because, well, let me just go with, I'm assuming your pro day was ran quite different than the combine for you guys.
Totally.
Because they don't have you guys at the combine, the specialist combine, do like the 40-yard dash and stuff, or do
Yeah.
they?
Yeah. So at the specialist combine, it was interviews in the morning for me and then onto the field. So I had everything in one day, kind of like pro day. That was one of the similarities. Um, at the physical combine in Indy, it was a huge session of just strictly snapping. So there was no bench press, there was no 40, there was no 5-10-5, L drill, vert, broad, anything like that. It was just strictly snapping. They just wanted to see the specialists compete. That was about six to eight punt snaps at the beginning, where they chart you, they see how you block, they want to see how you run. Then like 50 field goal snaps, that's a long session. Then you take a break, and then it's like feels like 50 more punt snaps. It's a
Wow.
long session, but it's important to just go out there and showcase your talent. That's why you're there. The difference between that and pro day is that pro day, now at mine, I had been at the combine, so I had been seen by some coaches and scouts already. So I wasn't snapping as many footballs as I did at the combine, but I did have to do the bench press. I had to do the 40. I had to do the drills and the vert and the broad to showcase the athleticism. Um, and that was before the snapping, which was also like a unique challenge of its own. Is a lot of, I'm never going to bench press 225 as many reps as possible before a game. So that's something that you have to adapt to, something you have to practice for. But yeah, the combine was nice. You just focus strictly on snapping. And then pro day is focusing on everything. They want to see what you're made of. They want to see how you respond to a little bit of adversity, what it's going to be like in these drills that aren't just snapping. There
Mhm.
wasn't an interview process for me at the pro day like there was at the combine, but those are kind of the main differences. They're very different and the same in their own ways.
Okay. So what advice, cuz I mean
Mhm.
50 snaps after some punt snaps, that's a
A
lot.
lot.
I don't even know of any of you guys that do that in like practice. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong, but how would you or what advice would you give guys on how do you prepare for that? Because when you start to do too many, you can get out of rhythm
Right.
or get a rut. And then if you do, how do you get out of the rut? Like, what are your tips?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is just you just gotta be mentally tough. That's number one. Before anything else, you just gotta be mentally tough. Um, but I've always been a person that's able to snap for a long time and do lots of those reps. So I had been kind of training in sessions where I was preparing for lots of snaps, lots of possibilities. The main thing is to just stay off your feet. I had a scout talk to me beforehand, just kind of warning me like there's going to be a lot of snaps, so make sure you stay off your feet. We all brought snacks and water and things like that. You don't want to be um, expending all your energy right before. Something that I did a few days prior to the combine was I stopped lifting and I stopped running very heavily. Um, I would stretch and I would do mobility work a few days leading up to it. So when I was physically snapping that day, I felt like the Iron Man snapper, like I could do as many reps as you needed me to because I felt so fresh. A lot of people make the mistake of getting in a huge session right before and switching up like, oh, this is the last one that I got to do before I go. Let me go do all these reps. Don't do that. Get a good session in before, something light. Don't have a crazy lift that's gonna make you sore. You want to feel as fresh as possible, and prepare for having those snaps. You got breaks in between. So, like I said, get off your feet, stretch. People had their, massage guns out there and rollers and everything like that. Um, but that was the main thing that I would say guys need to prepare for something like the combine.
So you said bring snacks. This might seem really simple, but it's important to know, like, so you are responsible. They don't have like a snack table out there at the combine for you
Mhm.
guys. Like, you need to bring your own stuff.
At the hotel, they had some stuff available, kind of laying around, but a lot of dudes, everyone's different in their own ways. Like they want to eat their certain thing, what'll make them perform their best. So a lot of dudes found their own snacks at stores or the night before, or went to the hotel lobby and got some stuff like granola bars, bananas, things like that. Quick energy, but yeah, as far as I remember, I don't think there was like a snack bar on the field for you. It was kind of, I mean, it's like big boy football. You got to go out there and be a man and prepare and, and have your stuff ready.
Okay. No more snacks in the
Yeah,
NFL.
yeah, exactly.
It's Yeah, it's funny because when one of my punters he just finished his rookie year in the NFL, and he's like, "It's so different. They don't like feed you and stuff, Susie.
Yeah,
Like, we
you're more on
feed
your own.
ourselves." It's like, grow up. You're being paid a ton of money. Go get your own
Go
nutritionist
get
and
your
feed
food.
yourself.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So it was kind of different in that space. But so, I mean, this is, really good information for the guys. Is there anything that you can think of that maybe you left out that is
Mhm,
super helpful for, I'll go two, answer two. One, if you're speaking right now to say a
mhm.
junior in college and
Right.
he's good and he has the ability, what's the one piece of advice you could give him whether it's physical, the mental, all that,
Mhm.
and I know mindset always is important. It's what I teach. So,
Right.
what can you give him? And then secondly, a guy who will be draft ready or even right now is like in this moment, maybe hasn't had his pro day.
Yeah.
What advice can you give him?
Okay. So for a junior in college right now, obviously you talk about being prepared for a long time and having the routine sort of in the back of your mind set out. But
Yeah.
another really important part of that guys can get lost in, and I got lost in at times, was you're a junior in college. You're not a rookie snapper. You're not a senior right now. So a lot of people, including myself at times, would get worked up over the future. and worked up
Mm,
over, oh, okay, okay, I need to do this. I need to put this pressure on myself and start doing this now. No, you need to be where your feet are, 10 toes down, and focus on what you're doing in college, eating the right food, training the right way, snapping the right way, sticking to your routine that you've built, and focus on having the best senior football season you possibly can have. It's a slow process. It's not, you're not a quarterback. You're a long snapper. A lot of special teams coaches and scouts don't really look at long snappers until later into their senior season. It's true. So for all the people that, are juniors now or whatever in that position, don't worry so much. Don't worry so much about the future. Be where you are and everything else will handle itself. It's just the truth. It will be a slow process and it will work out when the timing is right and when it needs to. I at times got a little bit ahead of myself. I put unnecessary pressure on myself to perform a certain way at a certain time when in reality I just needed to focus on the next game. I was an Oregon Duck. I wasn't I wasn't on an NFL team or anything like that, and I'm not right now. Exactly. So that's a big thing that I would say. And then for the guy that's in this position now who hasn't had their pro day yet, who is kind of going through this process, it might be cliche, but it's this comparison factor that's huge.
mm,
I am guilty of this at times. It's just this whole process, it's just like the physical snapping. Everyone stands a little different. Everyone tilts the ball a little bit different, has their thumb in a different spot. Everyone's process isn't going to look the same. You're going to be a little bit different from the guy next to you. One guy might bench a little bit more than you or bench a little bit less. One guy might run a little bit faster than you or run a little bit slower. One guy might get a call from this team and get a Zoom call from this team or get a local day here. Or you might go to the Senior Bowl, you might not. You might not get a combine invite. The point is you can make it from anywhere. Truly. You can make it from anywhere. And you don't have to do these things in order to make it. All you got to do is show up when it's time, when the lights are bright. You got to go out there and perform. It doesn't matter when that may be. Um,
yeah.
so quit comparing, quit worrying so much. When you have your pro day, just go out there and do everything that you've done to prepare yourself for that moment. Nothing needs to change. You don't need to amp up the pressure and the dial. Um, so I'd say that's the big thing. Comparison is the thief of joy, obviously. So
Mhm.
just sticking to what you've always done, um, and opportunities will find you.
Yeah. Last question. You talked early on a lot about consistency, and we know consistency in your day breeds consistency on the field. Period. It's just you can't
Yeah,
be chaos in your day.
exactly.
Um, so with that, I'm going to ask you because you've had great seasons.
Hmm.
So when you have an amazing season, like you think back to junior year, not
Hmm.
this past, but what 2024 season,
Yeah.
when you did great. When you entered into 25, fall camps coming upon you, how did you deal with, because this is a big thing for a lot of guys, how did you deal with the fact of, hey, I did amazing last season. That's great. That's
Hmm.
so good. I just need to stay consistent versus I got to really level up.
Right.
How did you keep your head on and, it's
Yeah.
straight?
So my junior year, when I had a great season, I had no watch lists or awards or anything prior to that. So for me, it was just strictly fun. It was the most fun that I've ever had playing football. It's funny how it works. When you're having more fun, you just play better and you're more relaxed. So that season, I knew my name wasn't really out there at all, and I didn't have that pressure at all. So I was just snapping and having a great time and fun. And in December, I was named on the Big Ten list, and that was the very first accolade I'd ever received. So that's the first time I kind of felt like whoa, like this is serious. Like I gotta keep doing great. Um, but that mentality that worked for me all season in 2024, going into
Mhm,
fall camp and going into 2025, I just remembered that. It's human nature to think about that. It just
mhm,
is. Like it's part of being an athlete, it's part of being a human. When you do great at something, the next time you do it, you're gonna set expectations for yourself and you're gonna have that little thought in the back of your head, like, I hope I live up to what I did last time. But I just reminded myself, I don't need to change anything that I did last year. I just had fun and it worked. So I went into 2025 with the same mentality, like, just have fun. Do what you did last year. You don't have to do anything out of the ordinary. Another thing for me personally is my faith. My faith is huge for me. So just
Mhm.
leaning on that, I knew that everything was going to work out. It's carried me through the entire way. Um, but yeah, I knew 2024 was a good season for me, and I stuck to that routine. Just had fun with it. Took the pressure off.
Yeah. That's the best advice, and you're not wrong. I mean, I think I'm gonna take a lot of these videos where every one of you like, "I did my best when I had fun." I'm just gonna, like, put a little, like, clip it together of all of you
It's
guys
true.
because the guys don't get it. I'm like, "Just go be you. Just, like, stop."
Yes.
I have, like, a couple of freshmen, they're headed in, like, they left high school early, now they're in spring ball at the
Mhm.
college, and it's like
Yeah.
"Just like right now, just have some fun." So
Yeah.
I love that piece. That's so good. I appreciate you. I mean, there's so much here that you gave that's valuable. Any last piece of advice for any of the guys?
Mm, that's a great question. Last piece of advice. I would say, and I've touched on it already a little bit, but the extra small things, the things that you fuel yourself with. Um, I made a nutrition plan with a nutritionist in advance, and I think
Right.
it helped me a lot throughout this process, getting my body where it needed to be. Um, weight was a big thing for me. I had to gain some weight to be um yeah, I was lighter last year, so I took my nutrition seriously, so that NFL teams would look at me and consider me. But
Yep.
nutrition's huge. How you feel your body, it literally changes your mood. And right now that's like the most important thing, being sharp, being yourself and having that positive mindset, it will do drastic changes for you. So finding that early on, finding that lifting program that you're comfortable with, that won't fatigue you in snapping, but will get you ready for the league. Um, it's huge. And also, one other thing, I just thought of this. I know I'm rambling, but
You're fine.
the agent process is something that people stress about. Some people don't have agents. Some people do.
Mhm.
Um, I had no idea going into it how it worked. I think it ramps up a little bit during the season, but don't stress yourself out about that. It's just true.
Yeah.
It's stuff that people might not want to talk about, but it is. But I will, because I know I was in this position. Um,
Mhm.
December, November, October. That's kind of when things will start to roll around. People might reach out to you. You might question
Yeah.
if you have to reach out to people. It's a very late thing in the process typically, so don't worry about it way too far in advance, like I talked about before. Don't
Mhm.
worry about it. All of that will happen naturally. People will find you. Um, and if someone isn't reaching out to you, all you got to do at the end of the day is give it your best and snap, and the league will find you. That's the truth.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that because it is important. And I'll tell you that one of the reasons why this little mini series of draft prep came to me was because a lot of my guys were like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
Or they're like, well, so and so hasn't, is already talking with an agent. No one's talked to me. And it
Exactly.
starts kind of like knock them down or lift them up. Right.
Right.
But you're right. And I always say, whoever you pick, you're going to be attached at the hip for a long time. So
Mhm.
pick wisely.
Yes. Pick, pick somebody that you are comfortable with. There's going to be a lot of people throwing different things at you, telling you this, telling you that. It's
Yeah.
seriously that gut feeling. It's who you have a good relationship with at the end of the day, who you think is going to take care of you, who you know is going to take care of you. Um,
Yeah.
I went with somebody that I knew had a relationship with my family, cared about my family, cared about life outside of football, and it's been a great decision for me. So follow that gut feeling at the end of the day.
Perfect. Perfect advice.
Mhm.
I appreciate you.
Of course, thank
Thanks
you.
for a Saturday morning with me.
Of course, thank you so much for having me. It meant a lot.
You're welcome. Hey, thank you so much for watching and listening to the Talent Alone Won't Win podcast. If you want to get more tips and tricks on how to uplevel your mental game, subscribe to the channel and visit my website, susifreeman.com, and let's connect.